And good morning to you, and welcome to Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. We are on the air on a Friday. We've got a good one for you as we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day and also catch up on all the news and notes of the Australian Baseball League and Major League Baseball, all that and more right here on Talking Baseball Australia. Let's roll that open in 3, 2, 1. Here we go, mate.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughn. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box to the mound.
And welcome to Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. I'm going to bring him on. He is probably my best mate. The one and only Paul Morgan will join us from Perth in just a moment as he is getting in the green room right now. We're going to bring him to us. We're glad you're along. Happy Friday in Australia and a happy Thursday night here in North America. I'm going to bring you back down, Paul. I'll bring you back in just a moment. Dan Vaughn is my name. My broadcast partner, Paul Morgan, coming away on Talking Baseball Australia Live. Paulie, try one more time, buddy. I think I just lost you there. It is still Jackie Robinson Day in North America, and it's obviously the day after in Australia. And you can see behind me the Jackie Robinson display as I come your way from the Legends Mall. It's the Kansas City Monarchs pop-up store. It's and we're actually inside, and they've also got a display here. I'm going to show you around in a few minutes from the Negro League Baseball Museum here in Kansas City. Is what we're going to do. But we're actually in the retail store now, folks coming in, and they're getting their Monarchs gear. But we're going to talk a bit about that and Jackie Robinson, who was a Monarch, and Paul will be joining me in just a moment. I'm going to show you guys around in a few minutes. We got a lot to talk about. There he is. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to bring him in here in 3, 2, 1, and there he is, folks. Good morning to you, Australia. Do you read me over?
I do. I got kicked out as I got in, and the show was rolling, and then the good people at B Live like to kick me out, but that's okay. But it's Jackie Robinson Day, DV, so exciting time for baseball.
Over my shoulder here, he's right there. This is an actual display from the Negro League Museum here in Kansas City, and they've got it. And I'm going to walk you guys around in a few minutes after we get to our news and notes, and got to give you guys a little taste of the Negro League and also the Hall of Fame and some Monarchs history, because I thought fittingly Jackie Robinson began his pro career as a Monarch, playing here in Kansas City and wearing number 5, not number 42. We're going to talk about that. We got a lot of news and notes. Unlike last week, we have a few. There's not a lot in Major League Baseball this week. This is really ABL-centric this week. We've got a new CEO. We've got potential trouble in Canberra. We've got a young Diamondback. What else am I missing? I'm missing something else here. We got plenty to talk about. Of course, Liam Hendriks update as well. All that. First up, partner, how was your week 2 of MLB?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's just starting to get in the swing of things now. You're starting to see some teams kind of fade, some teams go up and about, but it just seems to be getting in the swing of things at the moment, which is nice and it's fun. And being a lot of the games now moving into that night spots again as it sort of gets a little warmer, makes it slightly easier to watch and to tune in. So it's I think, look, it's been such an interesting, because what have we had? We've had 2 no-hitters already in this season. We've had some massive blowouts, because we've had those conversations about the new balls, and it's just real hard to read what's going on in many ways, DB, because I sat and, as I say, there was no hitter yesterday, and we've seen this incredible pitching, but we've also seen, plenty of 15 plus, or 12 plus score lines as well.
Yeah, it's been that kind of season so far, and I think a little bit of it, part and parcel to the fact that it's been a different off season, different season last year, and quite frankly, and I can tell you this just from an American Association standpoint, a lot of guys have not had a lot of at bats. Even guys in the big leagues last year, they had a shortened season, trying to make up that time, and so there's a little bit of that, a little learning curve, or not learning curve, but perhaps the better word's growing curve as well. Good to see Wade there, and good to see Brian out there. Here's the other headlines. New CEO, Rocky Times and a new skipper on the top step in Melbourne. That's the other headline. Yep. And my question of the day for you folks on a Friday in Australia, and it's pretty simple. Are you excited about the next news we're going to give you? Because I think it's the headline is that a former big leaguer and a longtime baseball guy, basically for his youth. Glenn Williams is now the new CEO of Baseball Australia, and which will also be part of the ABL. That's the big news. So Cam Vale's last day is today, Friday the 16th. In comes Glenn. Your initial knee jerks, partner, and I want to ask folks out there, are you excited about the new CEO? If you're a fan of the ABL, let us know how you feel about Glenn Williams. Partner, your knee jerks on Glenn Williams as new CEO of Baseball Australia.
To be honest, I don't know a lot about Glenn Williams. I don't even think I've ever had a conversation with Glenn Williams. So a lot of people around that I know rate him really highly, and that's good enough for me. I was a little surprised, maybe DV, that they not in a negative way, in a positive way. I was sort of, Glenn was, has been at Baseball Australia for a while. I thought that potentially maybe they would have gone. My gut was they were going to probably go. I just had a feeling that maybe it was going to be an executive from North America, or potentially it was going to be someone from another sport coming in. But look, it makes a lot of sense from that. I mean, he knows the journey. But I think most importantly for baseball in Australia, Glenn understands the journey of from, I think he's from Gosford all the way through to Minnesota. So he understands that, which I think is a crucial part. And let's hope that he gets sort of some good support from some really good marketing people, and we're going to have Shane Tonkin in there as a commercial partner, a commercial manager as well. So look, I think all in all, we sort of talked about the Justin Huber. I didn't know a lot about, to be perfectly honest, I didn't know a lot about Glenn Williams 3 months ago, but outside of his time in Minnesota. But look, I think it is. The good thing is he understands the game. He understands the players involved. From an ownership point of view, he understands where everything's at, and can come and hit the ground running. And I'm sure that there'll be plenty of support from the board and probably a mentor or two along the way. But look, we sort of talked a while ago on this show about Justin Huber and maybe his value after serving that apprenticeship at the Melbourne Aces for 4 or 5 seasons as a GM, and his knowledge of baseball and going into America and et cetera, et cetera. But DV, as long as he can keep the game going forward, I think he'll get the tick of all the baseball folk.
Yeah, he's sitting in a good spot because Cam Vale left the seat in a good spot. Former big leaguer, remember the silver medal team in the Olympics? What was that, 2000 in Athens, I believe? Was that right? Yeah, 2000 Athens, won the silver. 2004, I'm sorry. He made the big leagues in 2005, was a youngster signing. One of those guys, we've talked about all these young guys who sign with, big league organizations. He was a youngster, 16 years old, I believe, when he signed with the Braves back in the day and reached the big leagues. A guy that, and he's a behind the scenes guy who's been there. I don't know him personally. We are reaching out to get him on the show. Either it won't be next week after next. We've already got a guest lineup for next week. We'll tease that a bit later. But I can tell you he's working behind the scenes with the league. For example, this last year, one of the things he was doing was ensuring that the North American players were able to get in. He was the liaison between Home Affairs and between the Baseball Australia and making sure the imports got in, and they had their, got their quarantine and got in. He's been a behind the scenes guy, but really guiding the national team at the top level, and both the Emeralds and, of course, the men's team both. And those two teams are now top 10 under his leadership, climbing as high as 6th. And that's all coming under his watch. So he's been really heavy into the national team. He'll now segue into running the entire body. My guess is, this is a guess, but I think you and I both believe this, though, there'll probably be some kind of, I don't want to say adjustment, but maybe another person comes in to kind of supplant and help run the ABL from maybe an ABL commissioner type person or whatever. I would think that's been the talk I've heard. I've heard multiple owners tell me this. Multiple owners have told you this. Cam Vale even mentioned this to us on the air in his exit interview. A possibility where you'll see someone come in and kind of be the commissioner of the ABL, and then Williams being the CEO of the entire of Baseball Australia, which is the entire big picture. So, but hey, there's a lot of ways to go here. And I know there's a lot of qualified candidates. I've heard the grapevine. There was a couple North Americans, as you mentioned, a lot of domestics. But I believe They went a really good, solid route with a guy that has a background. And again, it's every time this league, partner, as you know, was at a crossroads in 2016, 17, when things went private. Again, another crossroads, because Cam's got you to point A, or from point A to point B, and now Glenn Williams is trying to get you to point B and beyond. So that's what he's up against. And boy, partner, does he inherit a bit of a dicey situation from day one with what's going on in the ACT? I don't know how much you guys have read this, but a lot of dramas there in with the Canberra Cavalry. First off, you and I have championed Canberra for a long time. We love going there. We think it's a great ballpark, great atmosphere. But boy, what am I missing here? I even texted you last night. What are we missing? Because apparently there's plenty of drama. In case you missed it, Canberra is what they've gone into. What's the word for it in Australia? It's bankruptcy in the States, but administration. Yeah, it's the same thing as bankruptcy. But your thoughts? That is initially on the table. That's a big mess, because you got to iron that out. You don't want to lose a franchise that's been fairly consistent over the years.
And catching up, what was probably the biggest, I think the biggest news story out of the whole sort of fiasco, if you want to call it, on a Canberra sort of blog website, news website called the riotact.com. So Riot and ACT, riotact.com. It was an article about where the Cavalry are from financially, where there's reports that they owe around about $400,000. As you said, DV, they've gone into voluntary administration as well, which is the step before bankruptcy. So they've got they have some administrators come in to try to secure the team's future, which from what we're hearing, it looks like it's possibly happened with some local sponsors all banding together, but we'll have some more news on that down the road. But probably what was most interesting, DV, was on this Riot Act, on this article on the Riot Act, was a comment by, obviously the article's open for comments, but there it is on the screen there. It was Steve Kent, of course, former long-time Cavalry pitcher and a great Cavalry guy, who he wrote, and I'll read it out for you. I find it very funny.
You go ahead. I haven't checked one. Yeah.
I find it very funny that the representatives from the Canberra Cavalry who have been speaking to the media appear to think that current directors, owners will remain in place. Surely they know the writing's on the wall and that the time at the helm has become untenable. One, let's hope the Baseball Australia and the Australian Baseball League aren't silly enough to let the administrations of the organisation remain in place. And two, if for some reason they did allow this to happen, I find it extremely unlikely the Cavalry would be able to field a team in the next ABL season, because there'd be a mass exodus of players, field staff, volunteers, and sponsors due to their treatment over the past few years. And finally, there's so much misinformation out there in quotes and recent articles that are leading people to think that everything's okay at the Cavalry, when the stark reality is things are dire at the Canberra Cavalry, not only from a financial position, but also with the way that people have been treated. And the best thing that could ever happen as an organisation is to have new owners before the team ceases to exist. So interesting. It's really that's coming from probably your team leader over the past almost franchise history in many ways.
When you think of Canberra, players. That's pretty much the guy I think of. I mean, there's others, but that's the guy who since I've been in the league, that has been a mainstay there.
And we know last season, Dave. We know last season that of the ownership group, the majority owner, there was some kind of fallout with the players. There was a bit of a mess when it comes to recruiting the players and bringing them over to Australia during that pandemic. We know there's been some restructure happen already at Canberra. Sounds like there's a bit more restructure happening, but look, that seems like there does seem to be two. We know of a couple of. There seems to be there are a few dicey situations going on with with a couple of franchises. We know that Canberra, though, before the pandemic, of course, they had the bushfires to face, which eliminated a couple of series in that 2018-19 or 2019-20 season. should I say? And then, of course, the pandemic year as well. So they've had it rough in terms of trying to generate revenue. But we knew the writing was on the wall last year, DV. We knew round one when the Cavalry was supposed to come to Perth and never came to Perth. And Brisbane ended up coming the Futures team. And it's interesting. But look, I don't think that team was going to go away. As you said, DV, I think they're a well-positioned team. They've got a great fan base, a great game day experience as well. I think they'll be fine. But you would expect, DV, there's going to be changes.
You would think so. If someone came to us and said, hey, do you want to take over the Canberra club, what would you say? Well, you'd want to know the story. And I don't think anybody really knows the real behind-the-scenes story. But I think seeing Steve Kent's comments, that tells me that the rumors we heard last December, really, we heard this in December. You and I talked about this right here on the show. There was some rumor of some dramas. Some players were upset. We even heard of a players-only meeting. They weren't going to go to Sydney and play. There was a lot of that, to draw that line in the sand. And I think you're seeing now with Steve Kent coming out, you realize that there is something there. There is something there that's more than just, dollars and cents obviously is a big problem. There's also something there behind the scenes. Is it cultural? Is it a rotten to the core? What is it? And I don't know what it is. And that's the big question mark. And you and I both have talked about it. I even told you last night, as I mentioned, I just basically said, what are we missing? Because what we've seen as broadcasters going to Canberra, we've been treated well. Thought it was well run. We had a great atmosphere. We were there. We've been there multiple times. And to see this thing, this is a club that my first year in Australia, they won the Claxton Shield and represented the league in the Asia Series the next year. This is a team that was unseeded the Heat run to start the league off. And now you look down the road, they're hanging by thread. And from what I understand, I do know the government does own, the ACT government does own the ballpark. I don't think there's a problem there, but there's definitely financial issues and within the player core group. And if you know as well as I do, the reason Perth's been successful over the years, the reason Brisbane, Melbourne now, you've got to have those core Australian players happy. And if you don't have them happy, they're going to play somewhere else. And especially when Canberra has so few of players to choose from, you lose one or two, you're in trouble. So that to me is the red flag. And as I told you last night, I'm missing something, but I think you're seeing now it's financial, but also the dramas with the player culture. What else we got here? And I don't want Ethan. They won't let them fail. It's a lot like I told you guys about Auckland. There was the drama with Auckland. I don't think Auckland necessarily goes away if they go away a year or whatever. But if Auckland is the same situation, you're not going to just leave. It's like I'm sitting here in Kansas City. We went through the same drama 2 years ago. The old T-Bones Club was just going to pack up and go away. The American Association would not let a team just disappear. They'd find a way to get somebody here. I believe the ABL and will find a way to find somebody, owners, to make that thing propped up on its own 2 feet.
Yep. No, I agree. And look, there is a lot of I think we've heard rumors, just from different people that like there's some like, and I'm just reading off to quote someone else, the website sportsvisa.com, who said that new ownership consortium led by there's people looking from an international sporting club looking to get involved with the Cavalry, some major sponsors looking to get involved with the Cavalry currently, and look, all of this points back to, you will remember from the Cavalry that before the season started, or just as the season started, Don McMichael, the CEO, left, which typically is not a great sign when the CEO leaves at the start of the season, DV, and multiple websites report around player contracts were a little dicey as well. So, look, I think that's a watch this space, DV, and we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. I don't think the team's
go ahead. I don't either. And coming off no, I don't think so either. And coming off the COVID year, where things were so dicey anyway, this is a Glenn Williams gets this right away. But what you don't want to see is this thing mushroom to where other warts are exposed in the franchise and other franchises and wind up with multiple problems. I think right now this one's front and center for the league. Number two is the Auckland situation, how that transpires as well. And from there, I think, you and I have talked about this. We felt pretty confident with our sources and people we've talked to that as many as 3 teams possibly could have some shifts in support ownership wise.
Yeah.
But we have not confirmed that. But we don't know how that's going to trend. It would make sense because it was a rough year for a lot of folks. I mean, we talked about this over and over again, how awful it was for those owners who didn't get a chance to play. They basically just burnt money, just lit it on fire and burn it. So Ethan also says, kind of unrelated, but a redesign of color scheme and logo is a good idea. I think the orange and white doesn't do it for me. I will tell you this, Ethan. I think you're onto something. And I go that way because I'm in the merchandise store here at the Legends Complex in Kansas City, where the Monarch store is. And I'm going to walk you guys around here late in the show. But it took a rebrand for this ball club, the old T-Bones. You had to change colors, logo, story, and sometimes you gotta just clean the palette out. And maybe you're right. What do you think, partner? Do you think that's something that you do in Canberra?
If it was me, if I was given the keys to the Canberra Cavalry franchise, I would actually rebrand them. I'd go back to the Canberra Bushrangers personally. I'd go back. I like that connection to the past for the Bushrangers, and I think I'm with you. I think if new owners are coming in or new people are coming in, like exactly what you've done at Kansas City, there you've gone from the T-Bones to the Monarchs, and it looks great. And you would know you're there on ground zero. I'm assuming that the Monarchs name and franchise gives everyone a bit of a different pep in their step.
Absolutely. I mean, in the message and all that, it is a pep in your step, and it's a whole different angle. It's a whole, and people are excited about it. And I was we were on the air, some folks were walking in purchasing caps. I was here on Saturday, a busy day in the mall, and it was jam packed. It's been that way, and you're getting a lot of excitement. Tomorrow, we're unveiling the new uniforms. That's a big deal as well here in Kansas City. So a lot of that going on the heels of what we're doing here. So absolutely. I mean, you sometimes just gotta, get a fresh start. And I'm feeling. Are we back to full? Harold's asking, back to full comp. As far as we know, Harold, yes. I've not heard anything else. I do believe, and I think you and I both believe this, that the Australian Baseball League has already. Good to see you guys. The ABS, some of our Monarch faithful there. The Australian Baseball League has already got a fixture in place. They've not announced it. They won't. But what happens is, in a normal year, you'll go through 4, 5, 6 different drafts. My guess is, and I'm pretty sure this is what's going to probably happen, the original plan last year for the Australian Conference and the International Conference will also be what they'll do again this year. They may just dust off that schedule and say, here it is, because and just move the dates around a little bit, maybe a day back. But your thoughts on that, partner?
Yeah, I think the conference model and the hub model is probably highly likely to sort of to continue. I think that was the plan last year, was to have that international conference and the Australian conference. November, I think of course the travel hub between Australia and New Zealand is back open, so kind of Auckland's issues aren't as drastic, and travel in general is a little easier. But I'd imagine that the whole hub would be the same, though, DV. I think it'd be the hub, the two conferences. I think it'd make the most sense again, and they'd probably try to play those lightning carnivals, call it what you want, like they did this year, which I thought they had some success, and they had some success in the broadcast doing that. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. I think we did talk about that a little bit at the tail end of the season. The hub model seemed to work, especially looking at the TV eyes in North America. I think that you're going to see that some. And that was the original plan last year. That was the plan before COVID shut down things, and that was the original plan. So I think you'll see that as well. Wade asking, and I think, partner, you can chime in on this, the Braves ice hockey, Canberra Braves, but I believe they are separate business entities. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're two separate financial models. And I know Dan Amodio, who also serves as the CEO or current CEO of the Canberra Cavalry, he has the majority ownership of the Braves. They've got the same people, or they had the same sort of people involved. Two separate entities, though. So the Braves season, I believe, starts in May, and they're all good. Of course, and actually Dan Amodio, the CEO and the owner of the Braves, had a message on the socials, I think, for the Braves, just to say that yes, the Cavalry are experiencing issues. However, they're two separate entities. So it's slightly different there, DV.
The show is Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. I'm Dan Vaughn. Paul Morgan with you in Perth. We are in Kansas City today at the Legends Mall at the Kansas City Monarchs store, the Legends store here at the mall. And I'm going to show you guys around toward the tail of the show, some of the merchandise, some of the displays here on Jackie Robinson Day in North America behind me. And I'm going to give you a did you know about Jackie Robinson as well. I've already teased it a bit, but I'll give that to y'all a bit later. A partner of some good news in Melbourne. An old mate of everyone's, of course, a legend in baseball circles and in the West, Molo. He is now the man of the top step for those Melbourne Aces. What do you think about that? That's if you went from one Aussie legend to a really big Aussie legend right there with Peter. Good news for the Aces right there.
I think it's great news. I think it's great news for the Aces. Peter Moylan served as the pitching coach there last year for the Aces, and now come back as a manager. Alan De San Miguel, as we reported a while back, decided. Of course, I think he's up in Kansas City with you somewhere, or he's in the Kansas City organization.
He's close.
Anyway.
He's close. He's close. He's not down the AA in Northwest Arkansas, right?
There you go. But he decided to step aside, so Peter Moylan takes the helm, and I think it's really exciting for Australian baseball because Peter Moylan probably he's still pretty relevant in Major League Baseball circles as well. He's got a big profile over there in many, certainly in the Atlanta Braves sort of region, even up there in Kansas City where he played for the Royals and those good teams. So I think it's a great thing for the sport. I think it's a great thing for Melbourne as well that you've got a guy that still really has his finger on the pulse MLB wise, has the right connections, and it serves well for the Aces in terms of they're going for a three-peat, and with Moylan at the helm, they're every chance. So it's I think it's and Ethan says it as well. It's the Braves announcers talked about it last night. I do think he has got that personality. He has got those connections as well. So I do think it's great for baseball in Australia.
Yeah, he got mentioned also in the Seattle Mariners broadcast as well. Ryan Rowland-Smith is there, and that he's on part of the studio team. But yes, the Braves mentioned. He still was very popular his short time in Kansas City. Brought the coffee culture to KC's clubhouse, which is very big. Which actually in Kansas City is one of the better coffee cultures in North America. It's one of the better. You think of barbecue in Kansas City, maybe Boulevard beer, but coffee culture here is as good as anywhere, especially in the Midwest. But even more so than Texas, I think. So he brought that to the clubhouse, and he's a well-liked guy. And what also too, Ethan, and everybody out there, he's been recently in the big leagues. This is not a guy that played the big leagues 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. This is a guy that played the big leagues in recent memory. And folks remember them in recent memory. This would be like, Liam Hendricks retiring, and 3 years later he's a skipper of Perth. I mean, you would have an instant name recognition, and it's only going to help the league. And this is a guy that didn't play baseball for 1 or 2 years. This is a lot like Graham Lloyd's career, a long-time career. He met a lot of folks. If you're recruiting players, not a bad guy to have to make a phone call to somebody he knows. Say, hey, I need a pitcher. Do you got anybody? Because his virtual Rolodex is going to be a mile long. So that's good for Aces fans. And I just think it's good for it's good for the league. It's great for the league to have a former big leaguer at the top step. All good.
Totally agree.
One more piece of news, too. This is really ABL-centric today here on Talking Baseball Australia Live. We love these. We love it when a youngster is signed. And a young man, there's all kinds of things you could say here. The new sheriff in Arizona or whatever. There's all kinds of plays on words here. But Will Sheriff is now a Diamondback farmhand. He'll be heading over. He told me, I believe, he goes into month to their training, spring training complex for the minor leaguers out in Arizona. Seen him pitch myself. He's a young guy. It's lots of the system, to the little leagues, the juniors, all the way to the Heat. Had a nice debut. Your thoughts on what we've got to watch and forward to, the crafty lefty?
Yeah, like he's sort of, I guess he's built stature-wise very similar to Josh Tolles. Like not the biggest guy on the mound. Does a lot, gets a lot of movement with the ball as well. He look, I loved watching him last year for the Heat, and I think this is a great move. And look, I think and Simon Eitzens always talks about it on our broadcast as well. Those left-handed pitches are something different as well. He was, he got to put up into some high leverage situations, and I'll give a shout out to Andy Kyle for really helping to develop Will's career. Like really, last year they started to put him up into some high leverage situations, giving him the starts and all those things, which worked really well for Will Sheriff.
There, bud. He froze up on me. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. So, no, you froze. So, hopefully everyone heard that. Anyway, so Craig Shipley, of course, former big leaguer as well, is the man who signs Aussies for the Diamondbacks, from what I believe. And he liked what he saw in Will Sheriff. I think it's a great signing for the Diamondbacks. I think it's. I think if he gets that time in that system as well, just to learn and develop and hone his craft a bit better, I think the sky's the limit for Will.
Yeah, 8 ball games this year, 10 innings, 3.60, four earned runs in that time, 7 hits, struck out 14, high strikeout guy. And, he's one of those guys, lefties. A lefty that can throw strikes has a chance to stick around a while as opposed to a right-hander. I feel good about it. And watching him from a distance, and I've seen him in person as well, but watching him from a distance, and I really thought, because I only saw him a limited sample size last year, I thought this year getting a lot more of an opportunity, and he flourished in that role. Andy was not afraid to go to him at any point, and I think he was he wasn't wide-eyed by the situation. A lot of times a young kid gets out there and doesn't flourish, and that was his real first taste of high-level ball, and he passed the test. So going on the Diamondbacks, and very good. But by the way, he'll be on with us next week. He'll be on with us live, partner. I don't know if I told you this. We're actually moving our show next week to Saturday morning in Australia, Friday in North America, because I'll be traveling on Thursday. But Will join us before he heads off to spring training live on the show, and I appreciate him taking the time to do that. He just a very nice young man. He's excited to join us, and we'll look forward to giving those real hot baseball questions. Okay, partner?
Yeah. Well, I'll have to spend a week thinking about it. So.
Do a little research, right, mate?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's. I've seen him enough I've seen him enough to give him the ticket of approval. So I think it's great. I'm really happy for him. I really love it when you see these kids get signed, and I love when you see the system. And of course, for majority of people who see things at the ABL, like there's a whole gamut of, like here in Perth, and I think Will may have been there as well. There's like the high school, the Darling Range Sports, which Andy Kyle and Ken McGee are part of, and there's all that. Yep. There's all the new sort of Diamond Fitness and the new gym at the ballpark, and there's just such a different way of guys. Some Rocky Dale's programs, the Dean White's programs. There's such a different way for these kids to get to where they are. I think it's great. I think it's just great to see, and a tip of the cap to a lot of people behind the scenes hard work.
Yes, no doubt about it. We're moving along here as we talk a little big league baseball quickly here. I don't know if, first off, just watching what Liam's done so far, Liam Hendriks and the White Sox. Of course, the White Sox are involved in the no-hitter that night. Liam, he hasn't really, he's only had 4 outings. So he's had the 1 save, and he was 0 for 1 in save opportunities this week. He hasn't really faced, except for that one he said we had 1 bad outing, 1 good outing, and a couple in the middle. Although he didn't like his release point, apparently, in his footwork. So did you see this, partner, that Liam Hendriks consulted his favorite tarot card reader? Did you see this? Big news in Chicago.
I did. I saw it. I read about it, and it dates back to when he was in the minor league system in Oakland when he got put down to AAA, and I think there was something about his. I read the sort of connection where his wife reached out to the tarot reader via an actress who plays, I think, the character Haley Dunphy in Modern Family.
Yes.
Somehow,
yes.
anyway, so I'm assuming she's a relatively famous tarot reader, and anyway, so somehow that sort of changed his fortunes. And I read Tommy LaRusso sort of that he doesn't care what happens to him. He's a superstitious guy. He had to say so. Hendo's been saging his burning sage in his locker room and around his locker, and the tarot cards are so we'll see what happens. I mean, it's worked for him so far, so why not?
Yeah, it's worked. I'm not worried about him, and I'll tell you, there's two things at play here. His up and down so far, it's been up and down. It's still early. I mean, what's the overall number? I've got it right here. His numbers so far. Let's see here. I had it up a moment ago. I'm not worried about him per se. I mean, he's so far this year he's got no record of 6.23 in 4 ball games, but 4 1/3, 7 strikeouts. We've seen the strikeouts from him. You mentioned a moment ago he had some real ups and downs, especially that Twins time period in his career where he was 4th, 5th starter, down to the minors, back again, back in the minors again, back and forth his option years. He had to really battle to get to where he's at now. I don't think in the long haul he'll be phased by this. I mean, he's a strike thrower. We've seen this now, going now basically 3 seasons now. He's a strike thrower. I'm not worried about him. And number 2, I don't think he takes things at least too seriously. What I mean by that is he's not going to get too high when he's up and doing great. He's not going to get too low when he's not doing so well. If it means throwing out the tarot card reader there or having some fun with it and kind of turning, relaxing this situation, not going to panic mode. He's a very likable guy anyway because he, just a likable guy in general, and he's going to do that. I think that you're seeing. We talked about this in the offseason. We're watching a gentleman go from a fringe big league guy to a star in the big leagues, and stars do these kind of things to kind of right the ship.
Yeah, and his last outing against Cleveland had just that 1 inning with no hits and 2 strikeouts. So I mean, I think you're right, DV. I think it's early. Look, it's also a new uniform. It's a new system. It's a new, it's a new travel regime. It's new teammates. I mean, he looked really comfortable in Oakland. And perhaps if Oakland splashed out on big money on their players, maybe he would have stayed in Oakland. But it's, he's got to get used to a lot of new things. And something that was interesting, I was listening on a podcast recently, which it was quite. I mean, it's one of those things you don't really listen. You don't necessarily think about. But it was talking about like how players are finding it a little bit more difficult gelling together because traditionally, okay, so the White Sox would play the Indians and the White Sox win, and then Liam and the bunch of the teammates will go out and have dinner somewhere. Now that can't happen under the protocols right now. They are basically shipped back to their room. So there isn't that bond anymore. There isn't that finish the game, go out and have a glass of red wine, and kick back and eat a steak and have a chat about life. So you're not getting those bonding moments as players outside of the dugout. And then even for Liam Hendriks, it's probably even slightly more removed because really he's kind of only seeing the guys in the bullpen, and that's it.
Yeah, no doubt, and I think that's you're spot on there. I mean, this is and it's also a new environment. All that, I think you're right on. I mean, and again, I am not worried about him at all. I mean, I don't think there's any kind of thing to be worried about. I mean, he is just, again, we're watching a guy really become a star, and I think stars do that. And you're right. There's a lot of different things because ball players are a group. They travel in groups, right? When you get on the road, everybody eats together, because you bond on the road, and you're not able to do these things that you usually do on the road, and that's a big thing. It's probably that might be a little something to blame to be as well. Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. It is Jackie Robinson Day, partner, here in North America, right there. And of course, there's the Jackie Robinson graphic I did earlier. And right behind me is the Jackie Robinson display. I'll walk you guys around in a minute, but I want to give you guys a little bit of the Do You Know segment of the show. And I mentioned this earlier, and let's just go ahead and cue it up and play it for you. Here we go. A little Did You Know for you. Let's go ahead and 3, 2, 1. All right, what did you know? As we play the game show music there, did you know? And I did not know this until really this week. Now, do you realize that Jackie Robinson Day started in 1997 when all the big league clubs were number 42. That was all the big league clubs wear it. All the umpires were 42. They sell the 42 jerseys. And since that time, they've retired number 42 at every ballpark in America. They've got special caps this year with logos on them and jerseys with the logos on them. And they do all kinds of initiatives, especially in the last couple of years. A lot of the different things that have gone on in this country, they've really increased awareness of Jackie Robinson. Of course, if you don't know, and I think most of you guys do know, but Jackie Robinson in 1947 broke the color barrier. For 80 years in this country, the baseball rosters were segregated. From the turn of the last century until 1947, it was a white game and a black game. There was 2 separate games and 2 separate leagues. And Jackie Robinson was a heck of an athlete, of course, in UCLA. Played football, played baseball. I mean, he was just a star athlete. He also was an officer in the United States Army right during the World War II. There's a whole story there. But everybody talks about number 42, right? 42 is the movie, that was made about him. Did you know, partner, that he also wore another number? He wore number 5 as a Kansas City Monarch. His first professional season, he played 47 ball games for the Monarchs, hit .303 here in Kansas City. It was his first taste of professional baseball, and he was basically wrote, when he became a Monarch, he wrote the team's ownership, and they said, hey, come try out for us. And they got him a dime in the rough. The rest is history. Eventually becomes a property of the Dodgers, goes up to Montreal, and eventually to Brooklyn. But did you know that Jackie Robinson's first number was not 42 as a pro, number 5. There we go. 5 was his first number. Did you know that, partner?
Well, I didn't knew that because you said it at the start of the show, DV.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I gave it away earlier. I didn't mean to say that, but because I was going to show you guys. But it is a great story. Your thoughts on Jackie Robinson? I know that you've seen, obviously you've seen the movie, but that's more than a movie. As an Australian baseball fan, what do you know, or what are your thoughts about number 42?
I think it's such a great, it's so. I think for so many of us, even though it's insane. And obviously, the US has a situation at the moment where there's still like a real divide in what goes on in a lot of areas based on race. But I think for Jackie Robinson Day, I think it's I think it's unreal. And you're there in Monarch Central, which is got the great history of the Negro League as well, but it's just unreal to think that this time existed not in our lifetime necessarily, but in the history of baseball, this is what happened, and I think it's and now you see players from all parts of the world playing, including Australia, playing Major League Baseball, and Jackie Robinson was the pioneer behind it, and I think not whether it's Jackie Robinson in baseball or whoever else in whatever other sport, I just think it's I think it's time that we really maybe dig deep into what this means. I think we're kind of things have changed for the better in some areas, but not in the best. So I suppose little like we were talking about last week, the All-Star game. I think what Jackie Robinson Day now allows allows that open dialogue and people to talk about what people talk about where everything is, from a humanity point of view, and what can we do better, and what do we need to focus on. And I think it's great that comes around once a year, and hopefully, I know in certain broadcasts that I listen to, like that conversation is happening, and hopefully sort of Jackie Robinson Day is used as a vehicle to have these really critical conversations, especially in Australia with our own problems that we have in Australia with race, and also in the US. I just hope that it's a day that's used as a springboard to make some good things happen.
MLB will donate the royalties of all sales of the apparel for the games today in North America to the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Also, they donate money to Players Alliance. It's a group of players, former players, current players, pushing for increased Black representation in baseball. Also, if you have MLB Network, I encourage you to see this. I've seen this already today. It's a feature done by the late Chadwick Boseman, who played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. It was done back in 2013, but he talks about playing Jackie Robinson. It's a really good piece. So if you have MLB Network or access to it, definitely check that out. In early 1945, Jackie actually, after the war, went down and was actually coaching and kind of at a college down in Texas called Sam Houston College, and he actually wrote the Monarchs. He wrote them back, and they wrote them back. He's got a contract for $400 a month. He wrote the Monarchs. He played well for the Monarchs, but as the story goes, he was frustrated with the experience a little bit because it was different for him. He was used to the regimented college routine, which is still that way. College is very regimented for baseball. Also, the travel schedule was new to him. They were barnstorming a lot. If you follow the Monarchs travel with their own lights. They would just pick up and go and play anywhere. He played in 47 ball games, I mentioned. I think I told you 303. 387, partner, 5 home runs, 13 stolen bases in his 47 ball games in 1947 before he became what was eventually a Brooklyn Dodger. And good words, the GM says as well. There's Wendy out there. You're going to see Wendy there. Yeah, look at you getting good words and applauses, partner. There you go. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go so I can walk everybody around the museum real quick, and we'll sign off next week. Well, first off, your closing thoughts, partner, on today's show. It was really ABL centric. A lot of ABL hard hits there. Your thoughts on just overall? Are you? Maybe I should ask you this way. Are you as nervous as maybe I am about things going forward? Are you pretty relaxed? Is it the camera thing that kind of brings us down? Is that what we're all worried about?
Yeah, look, I think, we're a bit more, I suppose we know a bit more than we let on. So it's there's, I think the camera thing will resolve itself. I think there's other teams as well that are probably in, not in as bad a situation, but sort of heading there if the season doesn't go ahead. Look for me, I'm relatively confident that things are back on track. From a baseball perspective, I think, it's a time now, DV, to sort of recoup your losses, and let's just hope that I just would love to see some positive. I'd love to see some positive things happen, and then good to see our mate Simon Ison's checking his. And we'll have to play because I actually got sent it the other day. I'll play it on next week's show. Simon Isons, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame, Baseball WA Hall of Fame, he spoke on behalf of the players, and I've just seen a video. I believe most of it is, which we'll have to play, which once BWA release it, we'll play it. But yeah, really inspiring stuff. And I have to get Simon on the show just to we'll have to get Simon on the show next couple of weeks to talk about experience, because it was a fantastic speech. He did amazing. But there we go. And then
Jackie Robinson. Yes, very good stuff. Simon, good to see you, Ice. By the way, for both you two gentlemen, you guys got caps coming, just so you'll know. I'll be like Santa Claus, but Monarch Claus, I guess, when I come over. Oh, we got you
Yeah,
guys.
there you go.
You guys will be all kitted out in Monarchs gear, right?
Oh, I'm all about let's go Monarchs. I'm excited for the Monarchs season. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to drive around DV and hear you calling baseball, which obviously was missed last year, and I'm excited to hear you back on the airwaves, DV. So, what is it till first pitch? A couple of weeks, 2 weeks.
May 18th. May 18th is our first ball game. We have first regular. We have our spring games start, I believe, the 5th or the 6th, I believe, up here. We have a Meet the Monarchs Day on the 8th, which is at Union Station in downtown Kansas, or in the train yards of Kansas City, and then we'll be out here doing some spring games. So looking forward to it. Yes. Yeah, Santa. Yeah, I resemble Santa, Simon, without the beard, of course. So, it's just saying. But partner, I appreciate you. We'll be back next week with Will as well, and I'll see you next. Yeah, we'll see with you and the sheriff and all that good stuff next week, partner.
Enjoy. I'll tune in and enjoy the tour. Good talking to you.
Give me a quick tour. All right, bud. There he is, Paul Morgan. Here on Talking Baseball Australia Live, baseball's best mate. Dan Vaughn rounding third inning for home. We're gonna close this thing out here. And give me a moment here, because I'm actually I gotta bring me in. I'm producing this on my own here. Let me pull the headphones out here. I'm gonna give you guys a shot of what's going on. Let me bring this in here. There we go. Oops, sorry, actually gotta leave this on here. Sorry about that. My bad. Okay, there we go. I'm going to okay, there we go. All right, so I want to walk us around here. So there we go. And I'm going to unmute me. All right, this is the museum here. Hopefully we can mute myself on this one real quickly. There we go. Okay. I'm going to walk you guys around here. We are in the Legends pop-up shop at the Legends Mall, the Monarchs pop-up shop. These are really cool displays here. You see James Thomas, cool Papa Bell. There's his story right there. See it right there, and you see a shot of him right there. These are really cool displays here. And these are going to be at the ballpark here in Kansas City. There's Satchel Paige, famous right there. There he is, Leroy Satchel Paige. Of course, he made the big leagues late in his career, very late in his career. Very interesting stuff there. Inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1971. There's your Jackie Robinson, one I just showed you a moment ago. Here is we'll back here this display here. Kansas City Monarchs. The Monarchs reign from 1920 to 1965, and there's your Hall of Fame inductees: Ernie Banks, Papa Bell, Willard Brown, Andy Cooper, Bill Foster, Jose Mendez. By the way, he was a great musician as well. Satchel Paige, Jackie Robinson, Bullet Rogan, Hilton Smith, Turkey Stearns, Cristobal Torrente, and J.L. Wilkinson, the founder, who's a great story as well. And there's the 2021 Reign Reborn, a partnership with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. We tip our caps in reverence and honor of the past. And here is 1950, 1945, Jackie Robinson, 1950, 1960. We got some artifacts here as well. I'm going to walk you through, again, this is the big display right there. Kansas City Monarchs. Taylor's working hard behind the desk over there. There's a Buck O'Neil. Buck O'Neil's a legend in Kansas City. There's actually a bridge in downtown KC that connects downtown to one of the areas of the city. He was a legend here. He actually played for the old T-Bones for a short time. It was just one of those guys. Every time you watch an ESPN documentary on the Negro Leagues, this was the guy that was always interviewed. Buck O'Neil was the manager player in the league, just a phenomenal legend for both as a manager, as a player. But Buck O'Neil, I've got my picture with his statue at the Hall of Fame, by the way. There's a couple of children. There's actually some more items over there. You can see, just kind of showing you guys around here. I'm going to show you guys some merch too. And there we go. We've got right there, a little baseball action there. See the Monarchs logo. Got the table of T-shirts here. I love these. I love this logo. I think that logo is so cool. That is so cool. I go a little fast here, folks. I don't even know. I'm kind of rolling right along here. Here's some more of the T-shirts over here. I'm going to take you guys to the cap section. Of course, you can get a lot of this stuff on our website, monarchsbaseball.com, and check that out. You can get these really cool T-shirts. I love the vintage look right there. Love this one right there as well. These are really cool there. I got our display there. There we go. Walk you all around. I'll take you back to the museum section in a moment. You got your hoodies. There we go. Got your jerseys available tomorrow. You can watch that live on Monarch's Facebook page tomorrow. It'll be 10 a.m. local time. That'll be 11 p.m. tonight in Australia. So tonight, 11 p.m. tonight, join myself and the staff will be unveiling the uniforms. As Taylor, wave Taylor, way to Australia. There we go. There she is. Oh, she's got T-shirts there. Look at her. Got pennants. Here's the caps. Everybody, got your mugs and all that good stuff. And then we got your caps. This will be the home cap right there. I'll show you something really cool about them in a moment. And these are going to be this right here will be the road cap. And I'm going to show you guys something really cool inside of the road cap here. You can see inside it's got monarchsbaseball.com. It's official. It's our own official brand here. But see the Monarchs Baseball inside of it there? It's our own official brand. That's what the club will be wearing on the road. There's the home cap right there. And some more here. This is a famous cap. That was one of the more well-known caps for the Monarchs back in the day. We've got some just novelty caps here, but get an idea. Got your beanies. I like this gold one too. The gold ones are kind of cool as well. I'll walk you back over the display there as show you guys one more time here. And there we go. Kansas City Monarchs in the history of the great game in Kansas City. So if you're you folks watching us worldwide, when you're in Kansas City, the museum is at 18th and Vine, the 18th and Vine district. It's a great place to go. I'm telling you, it is one of those places that you will not regret going to. It is one of the top 2 museums I've been to in the world, and I mean that wholeheartedly. So let's go back over here and close this thing out here and take us back to where we were here on Talking Baseball Australia Live. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. You all lost me there for a moment. Sorry about that. There you go. Should have me now. Sorry about that. The vintage T-shirts, you like those too? Yeah, very cool stuff. Very cool stuff. But I want to give you guys a quick little roll around here. And again, with the Jackie Robinson and Buck O'Neil, there's a lot of things to talk about, and I want to get to all of them. And I just want to give you guys a little taste of what is going on here and what we were doing here on Jackie Robinson Day. As I mentioned, did you know he wore number 5? And again, when he was with the Monarchs and hit 387. 13 stolen bases that year in that short 47 games he played for the Monarchs. For Branch Rickey and the Dodgers, signed him away, sent him to Montreal, and eventually playing for the Dodgers in the big leagues and back in 1947. But again, that's our show today. Thanks for joining us on Talking Baseball Australia Live, Baseball's Best Mate. Don't forget, we're back next week again. We'll be the Friday night in North America, Saturday morning in Australia. So that'll be next Saturday morning, 7 a.m. Will Sheriff will join us from the Arizona Diamondbacks minor league system. He'll be joining us, the lefty from there in Perth. Also, you want to catch more about the jersey unveiling tomorrow for the Monarchs. You want to get in that merch mode and get you a jersey tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. on the Kansas City Monarchs Facebook page. I'll be there hosting Monarchs Live, 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time in North America. That'll be 11 p.m. tonight in Perth in Australia. For you folks in Victoria, that's going to be after the midnight hours. It's actually going to be Saturday morning overnight for you folks in Australia. But again, we're baseball's best mate. We are the official show of record, I believe. Paul and I believe that. We try to bring you all the insight into the ABL and really just we've been doing it long enough. I think we've kind of earned, along with Chris Coleman, who the strike zone. We're not official anything, but I feel like we're the official. How about that? But yes, great show. Thank you very much for the kind words. Thanks to Paul Morgan, my broadcast partner. He is a legend. And thanks to you folks watching us worldwide. The reason I believe we're the best, because you fans of the Australian Baseball League are the best. You guys are passionate. You love the game, and you get it. And I appreciate you. I say it every time. Let's be better tomorrow than we were today. Virtual hugs, everybody. By the way, thanks to Taylor here. She's doing a great job at the shop. Big thumbs up to her who put with me kind of coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to go live today. She's like, okay, all right, cool. Great show. Thanks, guys. Let's see here. Shout out to the Red Cliff Padres hosting the Queensland State Little League titles this weekend. All right. How about those Padres? Go get them there. You are the official word. We try to be the official word, mate. We try to be. Again, we're baseball's best mate. For Paul Morgan, I'm Dan Vaughn. Much love to y'all. We'll see y'all next week. Don't forget, we'll be on Saturday morning in Australia, Friday in North America. And the time to roll the close in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. See y'all next week, everybody.
Some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its fruit.